Good evening. Today is Wednesday, August 22nd, 2018. I'd like to call this evening's City Council meeting to order. Please stand and we'll say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can I have the roll call?
Councilmember Bach?
Here.
Councilmember Stimmel?
Here.
Councilmember Williams?
Present.
Councilmember Cerveny?
Here.
And Mayor Thornton?
Here. Next is the consent agenda. If there are no requests for any items to be removed, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
A second.
Been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. This evening, I'm going to break our normal routine just a little bit. We have Officer Marvitz here this evening, and Officer Marvitz has just recently left the City of La Center to go to work with the City of Ridgefield in their police department, and we haven't had a chance to formally recognize this Officer Marvitz, so this evening we're going to do that, and I'd like to do it before we really get into the meat of the meeting. So I just have a few remarks that I want to read here, and then the chief will have a few to say as well. But Officer Andrew Marvitz served 3.5 years for the City of La Center. He began his service here on March 1st, 2014 as a reserve officer from the Clark County Sheriff's Office Corrections Division and hired to be a full-time police officer on July 12th, 2015. Officer Marvitz attended the Washington State Criminal Justice Training Center in Burien, successfully completing the program after 4.5 months. Officer Marvitz went on to complete the field training and probationary period with the City of La Center after 18 months of service. Officer Marvitz resigned from the City of La Center on July 22nd to obtain a position with the City of Ridgefield as a full-time police officer. During Officer Marvitz's time with the City of La Center, he received various letters of recognition for his performance and received a life-saving award in 2017 for his assistance in saving a young girl's life at the La Center High School. So that's a lot in a short time for 3.5 years, and I just want to wish him the very best of luck with the next chapter in his career, and have a long and very safe career. Thank you for serving the City of La Center, sir.
Thank you, Andy. Appreciate it.
Officer Marvitz, you made a huge impact on our community and each of us. You were very personable and approachable, and you will be sorely missed.
I appreciate that. Thank
And
you.
you won't be as liked as you are. We'll love you more.
Thank you. And I know for social media that you will be missed.
That's retired from that now.
Thank you. And
Yeah, but-
thanks you.
So, this is an ongoing joke, and as you can see, the Woody doll,
Resemblance, I guess.
was given to him with great pride. So, I just got a few things, Mayor, Council, citizens of La Center. It's great, with great honor that today we recognize Officer Andy Marvitz for his service to the City of La Center. Officer Marvitz was an exemplary employee that represented the city with pride, integrity, and professionalism. I was fortunate enough to play a small role in helping Officer Marvitz get his start as a police officer by offering him a reserve officer position with the city. Officer Marvitz did not have to wait long to get his chance for a full-time position, however. That opportunity presented itself. He did not hesitate, and I did not hesitate to offer him the position. Andy has a positive attitude and is motivated to do the work, but mostly he is enthusiastic and wants to help others in the time of need. He genuinely cares. Officer Marvitz turned out to exceed our expectations as a police officer for the city. He may have been the youngest and least experienced officer that we had, but it seemed his personality made him quickly one of the favorites in the community. Just through his positive interactions with those he came into contact with on a daily basis. It seemed Officer Marvitz was well liked by everyone, and daily I would hear how much they loved young Officer Marvitz, especially from women of all ages. It may be bittersweet, that Officer Marvitz has moved on to further his career, for us, a loss. But we also can take pride that his start was with the city of La Center. He will continue to serve and make us proud of his accomplishments along the way. So, Officer Marvitz, the City of La Center Employee Appreciation Award in recognition of outstanding excellence, superior performance, and accomplishment. We proudly acknowledge Officer Andrew Marvitz, the distinguished honor of exceptional job performance with integrity, teamwork, and excellence. Signed by the mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Good night.
Keep in touch.
That was great. Okay, thank you, everyone. I just would like to welcome a special guest that we have here this evening. Tonight we have Mayor Ann McInerney-Olgovic from City of Vancouver. She'll be presenting a little bit later in the meeting, but welcome. Thank you for being here tonight, Mayor. I have just a few comments I'd like to make. First of all, just a reminder to the City Council that we will be having our mid-year retreat this Saturday, August 25th, from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., and it'll be at the Public Works Conference Room. You all have an agenda at your desk, and we'll look forward to having our meeting on Saturday. Pretty full agenda. Just a reminder as well, my next town hall will be Wednesday, September 5th, beginning at 6:30 p.m., and it also will be in the Public Works Conference Room. All are welcome. The city offices will be closed September 3rd in observation of Labor Day. Also, the city is accepting applications to fill the unexpired term of City Councilor Joe Valenzuela, who recently resigned. Applications will be accepted until 5 p.m. August 31st of this year. And August 29th, school's gonna start again already. So I just wanna bring that to everybody's attention. There'll be a lot of kids walking on the streets. The school buses will be back, and just have everybody please be cautious when they're driving and be prepared for it happening next Wednesday already. And then finally, I just want to say that Mr. Ken Stevenson has been selected to serve on the La Center Planning Commission as an alternate, and he will begin his term as a planning commissioner alternate immediately. So that's all I have for this evening. Next will be city council members' reports. Councilmember Balf.
Mayor, I have nothing tonight. I'll save my comments for next meeting.
Okay. Councilmember Stimmel.
I think everyone knows it's dry and hot, but I understand there was a house fire in the last week.
Yeah.
Actually, a pretty good friend of mine, really sad. Thought the fire was out, went to bed, and it wasn't. I guess just a caution to maybe not have fires now, or
Yeah.
douse them with water. I'm not sure. I don't know what went wrong, but it's kind of scary. I have a fire in my backyard sometimes. And
Yeah.
anyway, just a little caution.
Well-
It's really, really dry this year.
There is a burn ban on right now, so fires are
That's what I
strictly
thought,
prohibited.
too.
Yep. So that's, yeah, that was unfortunate that that happened, and, but yes, everybody remember, there is a burn ban. Anything else,
Oh,
Councilman?
no, thank you. That's all I have.
Councilmember Williams?
Thanks, Mayor. The only thing I have, I don't know if you all noticed, there is a no left turn sign at the school now, at the elementary, middle school driveway for traffic coming into town. Hopefully that will alleviate some of the morning congestion. Fortunately, I don't have to go that way all morning, but we'll see how that works out. Maybe the chief might want to speak to it later when he talks. If you do, maybe you don't.
Bike strips.
Yeah, but that's always, I wish more people took their kids to school. I mean, my kids had to ride the bus until they were old enough to drive. And other than when you had to take them when they had something big or whatnot. But I see a lot of parents driving their kids, and they just let them out and take off, So hopefully this will take care of some of that morning congestion for the folks that live out, I guess, that side of town. So I'll just go with that. So
Okay.
that's all I have, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Councilmember Cerveny?
I'm not even gonna touch driving. But I would like to encourage everyone to have discussions. If you haven't volunteered at the school and help kids, you know, whether it's reading buddies, lunch buddies, there's a lot of potential out there for you sharing your experiences, your mentoring with the area kids and giving them the support that they need. And it's a good time too. Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, next on the agenda are staff reports. We do have a couple of reports this evening. First of all will be from our city engineer, Mr. Tony Cooper, and he will be updating the council on our roundabout construction. He'll tell us when it's gonna be finished, hopefully.
The
So-
burning question.
This is the stage 2 plan here for diverting traffic over from stage 1. So I'm going to probably just go over what they've done to date. They've constructed all the curb and gutter along here, along the east side. They've constructed this splitter island curb here, which divides the traffic going eastbound, and eventually the traffic that goes around here. And they've constructed all of this splitter island here and all of this splitter island here. They've also constructed this, you've probably seen it, this CMU wall right here. And also the curb here, which is the roll curb. It's a 3-inch high curb and a truck apron concrete. This CMU wall will have a Corten steel plate around it, and they might start installing that next week. There's a landscapers that are actually putting pavers in here right now. They're gonna put pavers in all of these islands, so that they're roll curbs, so that those can be traversable by large vehicles if necessary. But basically, it's a roll curb for traffic as well as the normal lanes, if necessary. But the truck apron is really for trucks. So what they've done is they've just placed concrete pavement all the way around to about here. You've probably seen it. That's 8-inch thick concrete pavement, and they've already completed that. What they're planning on doing, what they're doing right now is they're prepping all of this base right here. This is going to be, you can't really see it, but this is asphalt. This is all asphalt tying in to the existing streets here and all up here. So what they're doing is they're prepping all that base right now, compacting it, and what their plan is to pave these approaches next Wednesday and possibly Thursday. They might be able to do them one day, but next Wednesday and Thursday. And then the following week, on September 5th, they're gonna do this traffic switch. So they're gonna switch to all traffic, this driving along north and south on Pacific Highway now. And what they're gonna do is, in order to construct the rest of the roundabout here, and the concrete here for the driver truck apron, they're going to have delineate with barrels, they call them barrels, and do some delineation here so that traffic can drive along this bypass lane and continue on east. Now, they won't be able to drive directly north anymore on Pacific Highway. What will have to happen is, if you want to go north, you'll have to take this Aspen Avenue and the 5th Street, and then continue north. And then southbound traffic will be able to go around this. This is the opposite way that normally traffic will travel, but they're delaying this right now so that in the second stage, so that they can work on this. You've probably seen there's a lot of steel in this wall, steel sticking up right there. That's going to be a median or a concrete barrier, and that concrete barrier is going to have some stainless steel birds. They're going to be they're swans that are going to be mounted inside. There's a wall right here, which is really a mock-up wall that maybe some of you have seen, And that was really to try to figure out exactly how they would mount those birds to the wall. But that will be probably in the next stage. They're gonna work on actually placing that concrete. And they won't have to divert any traffic for that because they'll probably pour it from our Public Works building with a pump truck. So that's the plan. They're probably well ahead of schedule right now. So I think what they've told us is sometime in October they expect to be completed, late October. I'm thinking it might be November, but they think they can get it done in October. There is still some utility work to be done on this side. They have a couple of catch basins and some storm pipe to put in here, and a fire hydrant, I think a water service. So there's minimal utility, so there's really not a lot of work they have to do underground. So they could just really just tear up this asphalt and the concrete and then start placing all this meandered curb here. So they'll take all this curb out that's along the west side of Pacific Highway and meander this new meandered curb along here that goes around the center of the roundabout. So that's the plan, and like I say, they're gonna start paving next week, and they're gonna open this up for next stage on September 5th. They chose September 5th because they didn't want to do it the day after Labor Day, when everybody's coming back. So they want to wait a day, and it'll take them time because they'll have to put up some new signs here, diverting traffic around, and they will have flaggers out there for this traffic switch, and they're gonna restripe everything to make these lane shifts as shown the way it is. So they'll take out the striping that's there and they'll restripe everything so it'll divert traffic as shown. Is there any questions? Yes.
Are you, with the temporary southbound using the roundabout in the reverse direction,
Yes.
will you be notifying WashDOT so they don't send any permit loads down that road?
Yeah, it's actually Clark County,
Oh, is it
and I
Clark?
will. I've actually, so before they started any construction, I sat down with their permit office and went over both of these detour
Okay.
plans. So they have this already. So what I'll do is I'll just let them know when the traffic switch is gonna be, so that they can alert their
Yeah, because you don't have a
truckers.
southbound alternate around that for somebody who's too long or too wide.
No, there isn't, but this basically is gonna be the same movement the trucks would make, except it's the opposite direction, and the truck apron will be open, so they can drive over this truck apron too. So that is an option, but I'll let.
I don't know
Clark County
if you had a long load, if it would get around that though.
Well, it depends, WB 67s are the ones that are difficult to make this move, so, they will be able to use Aspen,
Well, yeah, but not
Still.
southbound.
not southbound, yes, that's correct, so they have to use this.
Okay.
So, but I will let,
I
Clark
just don't want
County
to see
know.
something get stuck there and the whole
Yes.
town is concentrated.
Well, no, they will be able to use all of this lane. In fact, this will be closed right here, this section will be closed. There's a possibility they can move these cones out a little bit just to get a level extra movement, but this is really schematic right now until they actually put all these barrels out and delineate traffic. And I've already asked them about having this nice and wide for trucks to be able to make this movement too. So we'll make everything, I'll let the contractor know, and they know that there are long loads that come through here once in a while. But Clark County has, to my knowledge, they've been trying to divert trucks not through this roundabout during construction.
Do you
Yeah.
know
They
if
were
we
aware of
have planned signage and Woodland, for example, where the trucks generally come off and come the back way?
No, trying to think if we can put something on the reader boards.
How about a
I've
reader
asked
board
them.
over in Woodland?
What's
Before
that?
How about a reader board over in Woodland before they get on that bridge?
Yeah,
Because their alternate route, if you're long, is 503 out to Cougar
Yeah.
and then back through Chalachi.
yeah,
and
what
then-
I could do is I'll talk to Clark County and see what the best way to do this is, because they're the ones that route all these trucks around. They route a couple loads a day, they told me. oversized loads over the Lucero
Yeah.
Bridge because of the restriction on, at the Woodland, you know, on I-5 and Woodland. So, but I'll talk to them about it, maybe see if we can come up with some kind of plan. They've been really good about notifying
Oh,
all
yeah.
the truckers, so
I
that
just-
they
yeah.
know about this.
I just don't wanna see something jam up in the middle of town and
Yeah,
we're stuck.
no, I agree.
You see any issues with buses making that turn onto Fourth with the
No.
cones there?
No, buses, even normal semis can make this turn.
Okay.
You know, these are the basic movements they would have to make when this is complete, except they're going the opposite direction. But this will be, I mean, you kind of see, this is a really wide turn. They'll be able to make this fairly easily. That's just a normal movement that, all vehicles can make, especially buses and fire trucks. They don't have that long a wheelbase where they won't be able to maneuver this type of, these type of turns.
Another question, I noticed on the schematics that it talks about rerouting, routing the traffic, up to Fifth and possibly 10th.
Yes.
Is there discussion at what point we would reroute it clear up to 10th? To perhaps alleviate some of the issues that continue to be brought up about that particular intersection?
We haven't really discussed that, but, yeah, I mean, that's something probably we need to talk about, is try to get, the residents would be better off taking 10th Street than going through Fifth Street.
Yeah.
Especially with school starting and you're mixing all of that different traffic, it might be best to have a alternate plan for particular
Might
traffic.
get that up on next door too.
Yeah, because the left-hand turn backs up traffic onto Fifth Street
Yeah.
most of the time.
Yeah, so I did give this to Clark County, so that's why I put that there, is trying to get the trucks to drive, you know, another route rather than taking this route. But if traffic in general could take this route, 10th, that would alleviate some of the traffic right there at that intersection, because there will be more, because now to go southbound, you have to go this way. So, I can talk to the contractor about it.
It'll be a mess after school.
Well, I mean, if we have
Yeah.
some alternate plans in place and guide people the right direction, I don't
Right.
think it'll be the mess we portray.
Yeah, I know, I could talk to the contractor about possible putting alternate routes down. Yeah,
Okay. Thank you.
you're welcome.
And we can look into the feasibility of putting up a couple signboards too, or message boards, I should say, so that might be another option we can look into.
Yeah, they will, I did talk to the contractor about the reader boards, and they said they can't put those up for for a few days until traffic knows about this
Yeah, it gets
traffic switch.
readjusted,
Yeah.
reacquainted with the movement, yep.
Yeah, because they're not
Okay.
gonna know this, as soon as it happens on the 5th, they're gonna do all this temporary striping and then switch the traffic over as soon as possible. Now, they'll probably install all their signs before that, and bag them maybe, but they have to do all the striping and the transfer in one day.
Okay. Very good. Any other questions for Tony? Okay,
Thanks,
thank you
Tony.
very much.
Thanks, Tony.
Project is looking really good overall. Good job.
A lot of long
Um,
hours.
What's that?
A lot of long hours.
Yeah, well, more the contractor. But,
I've seen them out there pouring that concrete
yeah,
at 6
o'clock in the
a.m.,
morning.
yeah.
They wanted to get early start because of the heat. Yeah.
Okay. Next, we do have a report from Mr. Larry Luton. He's our representative on the Mosquito Control Board. So I believe Larry has a report for us this evening.
Thank you, Mayor, council, members of the lovely town of La Center. Yeah, it's been very interesting with all the floodwaters we've been having this year. We've got a lot of catch basins, and that results in several different species because you have different species using the water as opposed to the catch basin. What I found really interesting is there are now been 4 new species have been discovered here in Clark County that have now been recorded before. They've been in the state, but they have not been to the county yet, so they are growing. there's a test called a ramp test for West Nile disease, and they've jacked that up. They ran 88 tests, I guess, before, and they've done now over 100 tests. At the meeting, which was last Tuesday, there were 22 positive mosquitoes, and 1 horse tested positive for West Nile. And I called to talk with the supervisor today, and that mosquito count is now up to 33. So it's growing. And it is present in 3 counties in eastern Washington. It's also very prevalent in California and is moving up this way, so folks, we're just basically bracketed by this. Let's see what else. This is an aside note. You can vaccinate a horse against West Nile, but human beings cannot be vaccinated against West Nile. And I was a biology major, so. We did have, I just found out, also they talked about the other night, and they said that all along the river, all along Vancouver Lake, all those are hit with the numbers are up. And I said, I haven't heard anything from La Center about our numbers being up. They did tell me they ran some traps in the La Center bottoms and also on the Lewis River, and they caught quite a bit of larvae. And they said some adults did get out, but they caught most of the larvae. Now, since Director Sarvis is let go, him and I used to talk, so if he had a hot spot that he wanted me to know about, he'd let me know. And I don't know who's doing what now with the department down there, who's running it, and I don't know if they're just calling mosquito control right off if they've got a problem. I just know that the folks who have board members in those towns just get a little better service, I think, so. But he hadn't I don't know if there's anybody out there, but I haven't heard, even from the neighbors, I usually will hear, hey Larry, I got a bunch of mosquito bites, what's going on? Well, did you get 1 or several? So, that's that. There is a fall conference in October. They've invited us to go if we'd like to go. I don't know if I could get a night's worth of motels, lodging, or what. You might think about that. And also, Mosquito Control District has got a PowerPoint slide presentation they go around to give the cities. They've already presented at Yakult, Richfield, and Battleground, and I don't know if you guys are interested in hearing it. He called it his dog and pony show, and it just basically shows what's going on down there. And if you would be interested in seeing that, I could certainly help set it up for one of the meetings later in the fall.
As long as his pony's been vaccinated.
Yeah, yeah, good point, Counselor, good point. So, I think that's all I got, unless you have any questions.
I think
Thanks, Larry.
having that presentation might be nice.
Okay.
It's a good idea.
Yeah, it just
Well,
keeps
sure.
everybody knows what's going on.
We can
And you
do
know,
that.
it is, it's coming, you know, and it's just, we didn't even talk about Zika. So, anyway, thanks, folks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Larry.
Okay, I just want to bring the council's attention to Janice Corbin, our HR consultant, has included a report in the packet for tonight's meeting. So I just want to make sure that the council all received that and had a chance to take a look at it.
Yeah.
I just want to bring your attention to the item number 1. Next Monday and Tuesday, we will be conducting interviews for the finance manager position. The city received over 85 resumes, applicants for that position. Ms. Corbin interviewed 13 applicants over the phone and selected 6 to come to the center next week for interviews. So there'll be more to come on that here in the very near future. We hope to have that position filled no later than October 1st. If you have any questions on the report, please feel free to contact me or Janice Corbin. Thank you. Next, we have citizens' public comment. If there's anybody that would like to address the council, please step up to the podium, and if you'd give us your name and address, and limit your comments to no more than 3 minutes. And you can comment on anything that's not on the agenda this evening. I did receive a couple of emails for people that wanted to have an opportunity to speak after the presentation we received tonight. So after that, I will allow that to happen after the presentation.
Nelda Perryman, 824 East Pioneer Loop, La Center. Mayor, council, citizens. I was looking on the city website, and I couldn't find the minutes of the meeting that we held on our salary commission, or on the ordinance that was adopted. And I was wondering when that's going to show up, so that at least the counselors can figure out what's ahead of them.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think we have till the 60 days after the ordinance was adopted by the salary commission, so we'll
Okay,
have to
because
have
we
that,
did that on
put that
the
up.
April 24th,
Yeah, okay.
so
No,
it's been
coming.
60
Yep.
days.
No, but thank you for bringing that to our
Sure.
attention. You
Okay,
bet.
thank you.
Any other comments? Okay, seeing nobody stepping up to the mic, we'll move on. This evening, we do have a presentation from Mayor from Vancouver. Mayor Ann McNamara Algo will be presenting a proposed resolution in support of the I-5 bridge.
Good afternoon, good evening, Mayor, councilors. So, am I moving it, or are you?
I'm just gonna make it a
Okay.
little bigger for you. There you go,
Thank
it's all yours.
Bless your, oh, good, look at that, wonderful. Thank you so much. Terry and I got here a little bit early and had a nice hamburger over at the Fifth Street Bar and Grill. Fourth Street, got it. It was that detour, the roundabout that threw me off.
It's a little confusing right
It
now.
was, absolutely. But while I was there, I met one of my students, my former students. Rob has a farm that he's raising wine grapes. So congratulations, you have one of my best students already working for you. On August 6th, Vancouver City Council passed unanimously a resolution to ask the governor to start the conversation. Start the conversation about the I-5 bridge. So this evening, I'd like to talk to you just a little bit and show you what we were looking at as we prepared for that decision. I'll do just a very brief history, a little bit of what the I-5 bridge conditions are like right now, the context, our resolution, and next steps. 10 years ago, in July 2008, we selected a locally preferred alternative. Since that time, lots of things have happened, but when we did that, we realized that this was a bridge of significance. And in fact, 3 presidents, including President George W. Bush, identified the bridge having national priority status. And as we looked at that, we realized that the bridge connects not just 2 states, but it connects all of us to a region that includes economic and transportation systems. We have 2 major ports that are very strong economic connectors for us. And I don't know if you're aware of the fact that some of the changes in the Port of Portland since this change. But the Port of Portland is no longer taking containers and shipping them out. They're putting them on the freight trucks and running them up and down I-5. So that is one of the things that we were looking at. The bridge failed to get funding in the Senate 5 years ago. And I don't know about you, but for the city of Vancouver, that was 10,000 people ago. 10,000 people have moved into the city of Vancouver in those 5 years. Since that time, the Southwest Washington delegation of representatives in the House and Senate put through Senate Bill 5806 asking for $350,000 to look at what was still alive, what permits were still viable, what could we use in all of the studies. WashDOT gave them that inventory and then presented that same information to us. What we found out is that the travel demand and congestion are increasing. From Main Street to Jansen Beach right now during those peak travel hours is 9 miles per hour. What used to be 3 hours of peak congestion hour in 2011 became 5 hours. In 2016, 7 hours, and now in 2018, almost 8 hours a day. In a 4-year period, we have nearly 600 total collisions from milepost 6 down to the bridge, just on I-5. 72% of them are rear-end collisions, and that doesn't count the collisions on the ramps. That's just the I-5. As we look at impaired freight, we talked about that Port of Portland piece a little bit, but by 2030, we'll have 77 more freight trucks on the road. Drivers right now are already trying to schedule around those peak hours, so we see lots of different trucks, 2, 3, 4 in the morning. But anything after that is caught in those 7 to 8 hours of peak congestion. Our C-Tran has wonderful express buses that go up and down I-5. Several years ago, back in 2011, it took them a half hour to get from 99th Street to Portland. Now it takes them over an hour. Yes, we talked about bicycle and pedestrians. People like to walk and bike across there. It's about little over 48 inches. It's about 50 to 52 inches for them to walk along those bridges. And we talked about seismic vulnerability. The estimates from ODOT and WashDOT both are $600 million to bring it up to seismic grade. Sorry about that. Some of the questions that came up with the old project was the Moda Center. House Bill 2017 out of Oregon paid to redo that entire area around the Rose Quarter. That's off right now. That's not something that we need to worry about. As we look at it, we delayed maintenance on the I-5 bridge, thinking we would have a new bridge. Why put in the new deck? We'll need to redo the deck. If you were here back in 1999 when we replaced the North Trunnion, you realized that we had to close that bridge and reroute. You don't want to be here September 2020 because we'll be closing the bridge for the South Trunnion. It hasn't been repainted, the electrical upgrades weren't done, the new decks were not replaced, and you're looking at $282 million. That last item is a reminder that next September, the 2 states will be required to pay back to the federal government $196 million if they do not show progress on this bridge. So knowing that it's of national economic significance, knowing that it's a bi-state interconnected system, and that we're connecting 2 different ports, the city of Vancouver decided to ask the governor to start the conversation. We took a look at those items that we just talked about. Traffic demand, safety, freight, C-Tran, bike and pedestrian, and seismic, and made those the whereases in the resolution that you have in front of you. This was a simple resolution. We tried not to dig down into the details. I don't want to talk about what color the tile should be. I don't want to talk about should they be Cobra lights. We don't even talk about what type of transit. This resolution is asking for just a couple things. Governor, start the conversation on a new project. The old project died 5 years ago. The money for the old project died also. That went to Hawaii. What we're asking the governor to do is to start the conversation, to start WashDOT to open an office and start looking at a new project. Some of those items that were on the inventory are still viable. The underwater studies are still good if we don't move those pilings very far. The transit will have to be a whole new conversation. As I said, the funding for the old transit piece is gone and may not be there at the federal government now. This administration is looking at different alternatives. So we know we need a replacement bridge. We know it needs to be high-capacity transit in a dedicated guideway, which means an exclusive lane. Right now, we have express buses that could use that exclusive lane, no cars. We can use bus rapid transit in a dedicated guideway. Instead of perhaps bringing Oregon to Washington with light rail, we could talk about bringing Washington to Oregon in bus rapid transit. Vancouver has, well, C-Tran has been successful with their first BRT. It came in under budget, on time, and has a higher ridership than the fixed route that was there. It was so successful, we're going after a second BRT for Mill Plain. The monies for buses are in this administration. So looking at this dedicated guideway, we could in fact put our express buses or our BRT on a bridge such as this. We know we need to widen the bridge because we have no shoulders right now on those bridges, but also to make sure we have pedestrian and bicycle safety. So we're simply asking the governor, start the conversation. There's a copy of it and it's in your packet. And what we're doing right now is to work with all of our different agencies, our jurisdictions. After the resolution was passed on August 6th, I hand-delivered it to the different mayors around our county, to the 3 ports, made the presentation to C-Tran and to RTC for their support. And then we're looking for legislative advocacy both in Washington and Oregon. We were pleasantly surprised to receive good responses from Oregon. The president of the Oregon Senate, Peter Courtney, was surprised that Vancouver moved forward with the resolution, and in his interview to the Oregonians said, yes, let's put the history of this project behind us, start new, and come back to the table. So I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions, council? Have you had an opportunity to present this to any of the other cities yet?
Oh, yes, and to the ports and to RTC, C-Tran. I pick up Mayor Costin at Washougal, and then Ridgefield doesn't have another meeting until September 13th.
Okay, good, great, thank you.
I would like to ask
Yes.
one question.
Yes.
I noticed in the resolution, the term multimodal is used, and yet we're talking about buses tonight. And the concept of buses, I think, is great. I'm just curious as to why the resolution doesn't come out and call for bus transportation. There's a brief reference to it, but the term multimodal is used.
Multimodal, bike, pedestrian, car, buses. But the purpose of this resolution was not to drill down into details. It was simply to ask the governor to direct WashDOT to open an office and start the conversation. We didn't want to dictate to the governor what the conversation should be and what the outcomes should be down the road. We want WashDOT to start a new project. And some of, as I said, some of the studies are still good, but all of the modeling for transportation is old now. All of that will have to be redone. So when we talk multimodal, if you're talking buses, if you're talking cars and trucks and all of those numbers are old numbers. They're going to have to start all over again. We didn't want to say what the conversation should be about. We said we want it to start.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mayor, I think the big community concern that I've heard, not only currently, but throughout the years, has been because of the high cost of the last number of attempts for a new bridge. And the narrow focus on rapid transit and rail. And throughout North County, I think there is a large percentage of people that are truly against that. And I think the discussion, when it is brought up and reopened, needs to really give some credence and value to those concerns and those real issues that continue to exist. And I think you know it quite well. You've been there to as many meetings and more than I have over the years on transit, and they're always diverse.
Yep.
And everyone in the past came with their own agenda. And I think, as you said, keeping the dialogue on a higher plane to really address what the overall issues are and how do we get there from here, and how do we do it with the least cost and not spend millions and millions of dollars on committee meetings. And
You're absolutely right, Counselor. When we realized, when the project died 5 years ago, and people were actually, Washout was actually told that they could not speak about crossing the river. That was in one of the bills. All discussions stopped. Unfortunately, our communities didn't stop growing.
mhm.
But the other piece that comes along with it are the new types of transportation that are coming along. As we in the city are looking at Uber and Lyft and all sorts of opportunities, and electric vehicles were not a big player in that old discussion. In fact, Portland, Mayor Ted Wheeler hadn't learned about what was going on with our BRT. TriMet borrowed our 60-foot articulated bus to run it up and down Division and Powell because they couldn't understand how a 60-foot would make a 90-degree turn, and it was new to them. We were the first to have a BRT in the entire region. So in those 5 years, lots of new things have happened, lots of changes have happened, and people have come in to our community with new ideas and such. We know that high-capacity transit now looks very different than even when it did 10 years ago when that locally preferred alternative happened. And in the last 5 years, it has changed too. So we, in order to get federal highway transportation money, the term in that document says high-capacity transit. They have lots of different things underneath it. And they say dedicated guideway, that exclusive lane that cars are not in and out. Lots of things can go in and out. We are the only transit in the Portland metropolitan area that has express buses on the freeway. TriMet doesn't have an express bus. We run all the express buses up and down the freeways on 205 and on I-5. We're the only ones with BRT. They still don't have it. They're looking at it. That's why we want to have that discussion and start the conversation, because we think there's a new game in town. But if we don't start, then we'll never make it to the end.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Okay. Thank you so much for
Thank you
allowing
very
me to
much,
come.
Mayor.
Thank you for
Appreciate
coming.
it.
You
Yep.
bet.
Council, do you have any discussion you want? I am going to open it up to the audience here this evening. Again, I did receive some emails. People did want to have some comments, so I will do that here if the council is ready for that.
I think
Okay.
so.
All right, so, yeah, if anybody would like to address the council and share your views, please step up to the podium and give us your name and address. And if you'd limit your comments to 3 minutes.
Jack Davis, 1524 West Alder Place, La Center. I'm here to speak in opposition to Resolution 18-438. I will be as succinct as possible with my comments, but I beg your indulgence if I go over a bit my allotted 3 minutes. The issues raised by this resolution must be thoroughly addressed. Let's look at the whereases. Whereas Interstate 5 between Vancouver and Portland experiences some of the most severe congestion along the entire length of Interstate 5 corridor, especially during the daily commuting periods, etc. I agree that the congestion can be bad, really bad, but to say it's the worst along the entire length of the I-5 is a bit of hyperbole. And I say this having driven I-5 through Los Angeles, where it backs up for many more miles than here. Still, reducing congestion in our area is a noble goal we can all support. All of us are aware that the congestion is not a result of the bridge, because during non-rush hour, when we drive south, we cross the bridge and then come to a stop a mile or so south of the bridge due to the poor infrastructure in Portland. Of course, during rush hour, that constriction down there causes the traffic to back up across the bridge, but it's not the bridge. Coming north in rush hour traffic, it's stop and go for miles due to all the ramps feeding into I-5. By the time you hit the bridge, traffic is moving quickly. The bridge is not the problem, and I think we've all experienced that. In 1917, the first bridge connecting Vancouver to Greater Portland was built. As traffic increased and congestion ensued, the second span was opened in 1958. Traffic continued to grow, and the 205 bridge was completed in 1982. You see the pattern here. To reduce congestion, we built additional bridges across to provide increased capacity. We did not replace an existing bridge. That's why there are 9 bridges across the Willamette. The congestion will only be solved by a third bridge that will bypass the bottleneck south of the existing bridge. And that's what this resolution should be supporting. Whereas the existing I-5 bridges are functionally obsolete and do not meet current seismic standards. The I-5 bridge across the Columbia may be functionally obsolete, but WSDOT defines that as follows. Functional obsolescence is assessed by comparing the existing design of each bridge to current standards. Functional obsolescence is assessed by comparing a number of ways, including substandard bridge widths, low vertical clearance that can lead to repeated damage from overheight trucks, low carrying capacity, or flood potential. There are 866 WSDOT bridges that are rated functionally obsolete. This scare tactic makes it sound like as if the bridge is in imminent danger of collapse, and this is just untrue. With respect to seismic standards, WSDOT has an ongoing program to make seismic retrofits to all bridges to bring them up to seismic standards. I refer you to the WSDOT website for more information on this program. If there was a serious problem with the I-5 bridge, it would be classified as structurally deficient. While there are approximately 200 bridges WSDOT classifies as structurally deficient, the I-5 bridge is not one of them. Incidentally, the 2 I-5 bridges just north of us on the way to Woodland are on the structurally deficient list. Whereas replacement of the I-5 bridge is needed to support critical trade routes, address congestion, provide transportation choices, and improve safety, this whereas is completely unsupported by the evidence. However, a third bridge across would accomplish these objectives. Then there are a couple of whereases talking about public service transit, and this is amplified in the resolution calling for high-capacity transit with a fixed dedicated guideway. Now we come to the crux of the matter. I was encouraged to hear the mayor talk about express buses, but when you talk about a dedicated guideway, this is just a euphemism for rail, which the citizens of Clark County have rejected. If, after completion of a third bridge, a decision is made to replace the existing I-5 bridge, it would make much more sense to have a lane dedicated to express buses during rush hours, which would be available to cars and trucks during other hours, which is not the case if it's strictly dedicated. If it's strictly dedicated, you're going to end up with rail. We know that. Express buses are much more efficient in that the different routes could pick up at various places in Clark County, speed across the bridge, and proceed to various destinations in Portland. The alternative is to take a bus to where the rail starts, transfer to rail, take rail across the bridge to some point in Portland, then transfer to a bus to get to your final destination. and in non-peak hours, when few rail cars are running, that dedicated lane will be unavailable for any other use. I should also mention that historically, rail costs twice as much as originally estimated, takes twice as long to build, and the ridership is half what was projected. Rail clearly makes no sense for us. By the way, I should mention that rail was originally on the I-5 bridge. In 1940, the tracks were paved over. Been there and done that. The whereases in support of this resolution really say nothing and are often misleading. I'm struggling to understand why our small city of 3,000 people, along with other cities in Clark County, is being pressurized by Vancouver to support this resolution. Their motivations puzzle me. I am clear, however, that adopting this resolution is not in the best interest of the citizens and taxpayers of La Center and Clark County, and I respectfully ask this council to reject it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address the council regarding this matter? Seeing nobody stepping up to the podium, I'll turn it back over to the council for any further discussion.
Mayor, I'd like to make a couple comments. I've heard some good points from Mr. Davis and from Mayor McEnany? McEnany Ogle? I apologize if I didn't pronounce that right. I've heard good points from both. I feel I need to do some research. I'm not prepared to make a decision tonight. I need to dig into this and to have a better understanding. So I would like to move that we continue the conversation, as the mayor suggested, but I think we need to have that among ourselves. And I suggest that we table this temporarily in order that we can continue to discuss this topic, and then make a decision after we've had some time to research this and discuss it.
How much time do you think?
I think we need to have perhaps a work session. I don't know if we're gonna have time in our retreat to take this up.
We may
but,
attempt to tackle this at the retreat on Saturday, but I know that the mayor would like to have some kind of resolution, some decision made by no later than the end of September, so we'd have to get it in the.
I think that's very doable.
Could we add it to the town hall? I mean, research we do is not effectively representing what the citizens of La Center want.
Yeah.
To adopt a resolution effectively is putting words in their mouth.
Right.
I think they need to weigh in.
Well, that's really not a city council meeting. My town halls are very informal meetings, so they're not, we don't really, that wouldn't be the appropriate venue for that, but.
But if we do a work session, what's our calendar?
Well, we can do a work session before the September 12th meeting, or we can have we can set a work session for some other evening as well. Yeah. It would have to be on city council night.
And that too, I'm very flexible.
Well, how about if I do this, I'll send out a request see what dates you're all available, and we'll get something scheduled for a work session.
Prior to the next meeting worked well for me. I'm gonna be out of town coming back on the 11th.
On the 11th?
Yeah, and I'll be gone from Labor Day till the 11th.
Oh, well. Okay, well, we can still work with that.
Yeah.
Am I correct, Mayor, that you would like to have some kind of decision no later than the end of September?
Yes, Mayor Thornton, the governor starts his budget preparations the 1st of October. And the request that the governor had was, does Southwest Washington support the replacement of the I-5 bridge? And in order to put it in his budget, he would like to see support from Southwest Washington.